to all of you. We've just got so many questions this week from people who are struggling to cope with what they are seeing in the world and how they relate to what's on TV and the news and what other people are saying, and how this can relate to something like self-actualization, spirituality, and how one can stay on the path of growth, contribution, and self-actualization and self-realization, and how people can stay on that path with all of this going on around them. So the point for many people is going to be, how do I continue to grow and actualize myself in an environment that is not conducive to enlightenment and consciousness? And we must remember and put into context that the world has almost always been in a state of conflict. And these are some of the most peaceful times that we have had, despite what we are seeing on the news and television. How we experience this world is through the five senses, and the mind is the filter. And when information comes in, it goes first to look at your safety and see how certain things are for you and those you love and the world around you. After that, you can show up with your emotions and your spiritual self, your sacred self, and show up and then help your mind process like a good friend, like coffee and contemplation, and help your mind and your body and your soul get together and process what is going on around you in a more holistic way, in a way that is more comprehensive. So we've got three kinds of consciousness. We've got contracted, expanded, and then pure consciousness. Those three are the three we deal with. And when things come in, our consciousness for a moment, for a time, can be very contracted. And that's how we experience very emotional situations, things like grief and suffering and pain. We then need to expand that awareness. We do so by meditation, prayer, talking to other people, and staying connected. And then we go towards a pure consciousness where we can actually be in a state of knowing what really is going on. And I'll tell you now, love is going on, and it is being thrashed out through a lot of suffering. So as you've experienced life before, with a lot of suffering, we've all suffered. We're becoming more and more loving, more and more conscious, especially when we give ourselves time to be like that, time to expand into the purity of our consciousness. So the main point that I want to get to this morning is that the questions of how can I cope? I'm battling, please help me try and process what is going on in my life. I can't bear anymore, and so on, is to say that you need to keep your focus on your purpose and the meaning of all of it. So our minds are incredibly powerful tools, and they also function on a contracted, expanded, and pure level. And all our minds are connected. So our little group that is listening to this information today is here to become more and more conscious, and we are doing that together. So we know that from history. So we are becoming more and more conscious together for a reason, and that is our minds are absolutely and intrinsically connected to everything else in this material world. The way we think is how we see things, and it is the way things will actually come to bear. So things happen in the material world from thought. So, as you think, so shall you be, the 7 most important words ever strung together in a sentence are, as you think, so shall you be, which is a mentality that is all-encompassing. You are not off purpose. You are not living a meaningless life if you are using your mind to channel positive thoughts into the environment. Because as you think, so shall you be is a real scientific foundation that leads to what we see in this world. As you think, so shall you be. So if every single mind is connected, and I mean, we would go further to say heart and mind. If we are all connected so intricately, what we think expands into the material world. Everything you think has a purpose, and that is why you should look after your thoughts and today continue the practice of yoga, which is to bind everything together, to create the union, to yoga, to manifest, to tighten, to put together all parts of our thinking. So when enough of us are thinking positive thoughts, what I'm saying is positive change comes. And that is simple math. If we're all thinking negative thoughts and we're trapped in fear, as opposed to love, nothing good is going to manifest itself. That is simple math. So you need to look after your thoughts, realizing that when you take 20 minutes for coffee and contemplation in the morning, to really choose, I put before you life and death, choose life. When you choose thoughts that are enmeshed in all things life, which is love, light, belonging, unity. If you can enmesh all of it for 20 minutes a day, possibly twice a day if you can, into positivity, you can change the world. So I always work on the 80-20 principle, and 80% of the world are dancers. 80% of the world will do what they're told, whether good or bad, without really being able to think in an expanded way, in a very conscious way that includes what consequences are going to come from people's actions. So when people get angry and destroy and throw stones at other people, they're not quite thinking of the consequences for other people. And oftentimes they think they're doing a good thing, a good deed, and people are dying from what they do. People are suffering from what they do. And people are losing hope from what they do. So there's nothing pure about that at all. So when we get together in a satsang or meetings, there's many online. There are many courses, including our own, where you get involved on a daily basis and you practice positive thinking at a very pure level of consciousness. There's a story about a master and a disciple. And one day the disciple sees so much suffering in the world and decides that he needs to do something about it. So the disciple goes to the master and says, "Master, all this meditation that we're doing is not helping the world. What I need to do is go out there into the world and actually start physically helping other people and stop this meditating nonsense." And the master says to him, "The reason why the world is in such a mess and there's so much hate and violence and a lack of peace is because none of them are meditating. So if you want to go out there and physically do the work and not meditate, you will end up just like them, with a warlike consciousness." So, when you think, when you take the time to practice mindfulness, a peaceful outlook, and you stop yourself from going down into the rabbit hole of negativity, you have a very, very important life purpose. You have meaning in your life that is equivalent to everyone else on the planet. You don't need to be a doctor or a nurse or a pilot or a teacher. You don't need to be any of these things. You can use your thoughts and your mind to achieve that same purpose that a doctor or a preacher or a teacher is getting. So never, ever, ever doubt the importance of what you do with your day, of what you do with your thoughts. When you practice not judging other people, your consciousness becomes expanded. When you practice not discriminating against other people or hating them, your consciousness becomes pure, because love is purity. So I think there's a lot of war and tribulation and trial in this world because the thoughts that people are thinking to themselves are not peaceful thoughts. We also don't believe that we deserve love. We don't believe we deserve things like peace. So we need to change that thinking. We need to change that thought process for ourselves. If we want to change the world, if we want to save the world, we need to start inside ourselves. If we do not have peace inside, there is no way to get peace to manifest itself on the outside. So if you are seeing war and peace and tribulation and suffering, know that the change we can all make, 7.5 billion changes, we can make from the inside. And what happens on the inside is going to be reflected on the outside. When we connect our minds together, when we have things like meditations happening, there is a vibrational force that goes out. Some people call it the law of attraction. What you got, you put back. Karma, self-esteem, self-love, love for other. All of these things are vibrationally connected one to another. So every single thought you think has effect, purpose, cause, meaning. If you walk into a shopping mall and you want to prove that this theory is true, see how you can sense someone's negativity. We don't have to be intuitive any more than anyone else to see some people from across a room and sense the energy, the negativity, or likewise, people's light and positivity. If we can do that from across a room, our minds are connecting to theirs, our hearts to theirs. And this is the spiritual journey. It is as scientific as it is spiritual. If we want to radiate a lasting, loving, and peaceful energy, we need to start from within. All the magic is going to happen inside. The evidence you will see from all the riots, all the chaos, all the finger pointing, nothing good will come from it. Nothing good comes from harm. Nothing good comes from war. So we've discovered through looking at war, that which has shaped our whole history, by the way. War has shaped everything we know and see today. And we're still acting like we're at war. And that peace is something that is not around us. And so we can't have it within. So we're trying to be good mathematicians, but we're failing miserably. So if you want to save the planet and want to make it better, remember the term like-minded. We've all heard about like-minded people. And if we were more like-minded, there would be less war. How can you go to war against something that is yourself? So if we ever want to save this planet, we need to save ourselves first and our souls. We need to radiate the energy, what is inside, outwards. And how we get that energy, how we generate that chi inside, is through our thoughts. What we do all day, 70,000 times a day, is think. And if those thoughts are negative, they will radiate outwards. They've got to go somewhere. And they will create what you see. Visualization is something that everybody can do every day. What you visualize comes true. So if you find yourself gossiping, talking nonsense, being negative, learn to understand that everything has a consequence. And that should be scientific enough for most people to understand. Everything has an effect. Every cause has an effect. So let's understand that meditation, which is seeing through the eye of the soul, contemplation, which is seeing reality for 20 minutes a day, for seeing reality exactly as it is. Let's use this eye of the soul to radiate positive energy and to build it up and radiate it outwards. Every single mind is connected to every other mind. There is a cosmic or collective consciousness that generates these big shifts that we see in the world. So never, ever get lost in your suffering and hopelessness, because you need to understand that your thoughts, your day, your meditation, your visualization, your contemplation practices are as important as every single other person's on this planet. Everyone has this purpose, and we need to see it to believe it.